If your mind feels crowded even when nothing urgent is happening, if you are tired but cannot rest, if silence feels uncomfortable and stillness brings more noise, this video is for you. Not because something is broken, but because your nervous system has been chronically overstimulated and has forgotten how to downshift. Mental overstimulation is not the same as stress. Stress has a clear source, a deadline, a conflict, a decision. Overstimulation is different. It is the accumulation of inputs. The brain was never designed to process constantly. Notifications, conversations that shift topics every 60 seconds, content that changes emotional tone every scroll, decisions that stack without resolution. None of these feel dramatic in the moment, but the brain treats each one as a micro-demand for attention. And attention is not infinite. Over time, the nervous system stops distinguishing between what matters and what doesn't. Everything begins to feel urgent, even rest. This is not anxiety in the clinical sense. It is nervous system fatigue. And the solution is not thinking differently. It is giving the system permission to stop processing. Here's what most people misunderstand. Calm is not something you create. It is something you allow. The brain already knows how to regulate. It does this naturally when the conditions are right. But when the conditions are constant stimulation, the brain never receives the signal that it is safe to stop scanning. So it keeps going. Even when you are sitting still, even when the day is over. This is why many people feel most restless at the end of the day. Not because something new happened, but because the accumulated input finally has space to surface, and the mind interprets that surfacing as something that needs to be solved. It doesn't, it needs to be discharged. Let's talk about what actually calms an overstimulated nervous system. Not distraction. Not productivity. Not self-care in the aspirational sense. Reduction. The first step is not adding something calming. It is removing what is This sounds simple. It is not easy, because the things that overstimulate are often the things we use to avoid feeling scrolling to decompress, watching something to unwind, filling silence with sound. These are not wrong, but they are not neutral. Every input, even a calming one, still requires the brain to process it. And a system that is already overloaded does not benefit from more input. Even gentle input, it benefits from less. So here's a practice that requires nothing. For the next 60 seconds, do not add anything. Do not fix your posture. Do not control your breath. Do not try to relax. Just notice what is here without changing it. The sensation of your body in space. The temperature of the air. The weight of your hands. You are not meditating. You are not achieving anything. You are simply present without a task. This alone begins to signal the nervous system that nothing is being demanded right now. And when nothing is demanded, the system begins to discharge what it has been holding. You may notice resistance. A thought that says this is a waste of time. An urge to check something. A feeling that you should be doing more. That resistance is not a problem. It is information. It shows you how accustomed the system has become to constant demand. And the practice is not to fight the resistance. It is to let it be there without obeying it. Now, here is something important. Overstimulation does not always feel chaotic. Sometimes it feels productive, engaged, necessary. This is what makes it difficult to recognize. A person can be deeply overstimulated while appearing highly functional, working efficiently, responding quickly, managing everything. But underneath, the system is running without recovery, and eventually, functionality begins to fracture. Not all at once, in small walls. Forgetting things, irritation that arrives too quickly, difficulty making simple decisions, sleep that does not restore. These are not signs of weakness. They are signs the system is overdrawn. The second thing that calms overstimulation is repetition without variation. The nervous system regulates through predictability. When the brain knows what is coming next, it does not need to stay alert. This is why routines feel calming even when they are not exciting. Why the same walk every morning settles the mind more than a new experience. Why repetition in music, in movement, an environment, creates a sense of safety that novelty cannot provide. Overstimulation happens when variation becomes constant, and the antidote is not more stimulation. It is sameness, not boredom. Sameness. There is a difference. Boredom is the absence of meaning. Sameness is the presence of rhythm, and rhythm allows the nervous system to stop deciding and simply move. The third thing that calms overstimulation is containment. This is subtle. When the environment is boundless, endless content, infinite options, open timelines, the brain does not know when to stop, so it doesn't. Containment is the practice of creating edges, not rigid rules, just boundaries that tell the system where something begins and ends. A set time to stop working, a clear limit on how much information you take in, a single task completed fully before moving to the next. These edges are not restrictions. They are relief, because when the system knows where the boundary is, it can relax inside it. Without a boundary, there is no such thing as rest. There is only pause, and pause does not restore. Now here is the part that matters most. Calming the mind when overstimulated is not about doing it perfectly. It is about recognizing the moment when the system is overdrawn and responding before the debt becomes structural. Not next week, not when things slow down. Now, this video is that moment. If you are here, if you made it this far, you have already begun the process of letting the system settle. Not because you achieved anything, but because you gave yourself 60 seconds without additional demand. That is not small. That is the beginning. If this helped you slow down, write calm in the comments. And when you're ready, you can continue with the next step. Developing an inner reference that does not depend on external validation. But you don't need to rush. This video will be here. The field will be here. You can return whenever the noise gets loud again.